Hello, hello, welcome. Welcome to our second Dev Day India. I'm super excited for this event. This is something that we've really been looking forward to, since our first one last year. But just to introduce myself for those who don't know me, my name is James Lee. I'm a Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Appian. You might recognize some of my voice and everything from the different product announcement webinars, which I certainly enjoy doing. But today, I couldn't be more excited to talk to you guys, our developer community out in India and really around the world as well for those tuning in. But we've got a really exciting agenda here in store. But to kick things off, where I would like to talk to you guys today is, surprisingly around the concept of AI, but I really want to kind of frame your guys' role in telling that story, right? And really it comes down to when you think about the Appian platform, when you think about your roles as Appian developers in this community, how you can really unlock this power from AI using some of these foundational capabilities to differentiate yourself and the value you provide the organizations you work with. Now, just to jump right in, I've had the pleasure of working with this community for the 6.5 years I've been at Appian. And there's so much that connects us between, the different events we go and attend and the different forums we like to join. But the thing that I think is really cool about this group is how big of problems we all solve, right? When you think about, Appian's targets and our focus and the industries and use cases, we are helping some of the largest organizations with some of their most complex process and operational problems. And that really takes a discrete kind of talent. It takes a discrete kind of focus. And the fact that you guys are able to do that with such good spirits and really such good competency, I think is a great testament to the value and just rigor of this community. And I just can't wait to show you all of the great things in store for you in your career in unlocking value through process automation as Appian developers. But the thing to keep in mind with all of this, and this is a little bit cliche, I'll admit, but the world is changing dramatically, right? We've gone through so many different tech revolutions and they've affected different industries in different ways. But, since 2023 and all of this increase in attention around generative AI and now agentic AI and whatever comes beyond there, it's really important as technology practitioners for us to keep on our toes and really keep aware of what the latest is. And the important thing to realize is how much it can shift day by day, quarter by quarter, right? If I were to kind of capture my view of the AI boom today and everything, we're really transitioning out of that period of a lot of stumbles and failures and challenges in getting value out of AI to actually seeing demonstrable benefits of applying AI, both as a productivity assistant, but also in automation context. But the important thing is that while capital and investment are pouring into this space for companies to harness this power, try and differentiate themselves, system integrators trying to become even more efficient in delivering, there is still so much potential left untapped. There's so much room for us to continue to grow and uncover and figure out how this technology can be gainfully applied. And the beautiful thing when I think about, us as Appian developers and everything is that you're not always starting from scratch. You've got, a product team behind you and everything, thinking through these problems, looking at the landscape and adding areas to the platform that can make you even more successful in this way. And that kind of brings me to one of my first contrasts here is around this AI value gap. When generative AI was first introduced to us, it was very much around ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok, and this whole idea of a conversational productivity assistant. And there's going to be so much value continuing to be generated out of that space. But the problem with that space that I commonly hear when talking to executives at large organizations and everything is while they roll out those strategies, they have a terribly hard time actually measuring the value they are getting from those investments. Yes, they hope that they're making the organization more productive, but it's a little bit difficult to measure and meter how much more productive the organization is getting and how evenly that productivity is being distributed, right? And that forces a lot of focus on things like enablement programs and all types of ways to try and drive better impact there. Where Appian has been applying a lot of attention and interest, though, is on those more measurable versions of AI application. And really that gets you into the realm of process automation, thinking of agents working as digital workers within a process-centric frame. And even when we think of as system integrators, how AI can augment service delivery to modernize applications, rationalize portfolios more quickly. These things have much more direct measurements in the impact and value they receive. And that's why I think it's really important as Appian developers that we think about how fundamentally valuable it is to have category-leading process capabilities underpinning our AI implementation strategy when we're working with these large organizations. You know, AI as a technology concept brings a lot of uncertainty, and that's kind of the point. It has a lot of, you know, variability and possibility. But when it comes to process, this provides us the structure and the rigor and the ability to define exactly the outcomes we want to enable. And that helps us work with these regulated industries and large organizations where they can only tolerate so much uncertainty, but they want to tap into the value of AI generally. But when we think about these large organizations, they're not all in the same spot ready to actually capitalize on this. And these are some things that even outside the construct of AI, you hear all the time. The business is dealing with dated experiences and experiences split across systems. And IT has an ever-growing backlog in, you know, dependencies across centers of excellence that makes it very difficult to actually accomplish any amount of innovation. And it's no surprise why when you take a step back and look at the enterprise landscape, right? Every enterprise is going to have these massive systems of record that I know you've all had a chance to touch in your careers as developers, right? Your ERPs, your CRMs, your ITSMs, every organization has one. But the thing is, these systems don't do everything. So they start building other shapes of systems that, of course, are part of the portfolio and everything, but they're managed differently. They might have different competencies, different teams, different integration and everything, but it's still a very core part of how work is getting done. But then when you try to drive the efficiency, you start looking for some of these more modern technologies to integrate with this whole mesh, right? Talking about AI agents or document processing, or even you know, data fabric to provide more connected data across all these different systems. But the problem is that when you end up with this ecosystem, and every enterprise has it, and every enterprise will continue to have it, there's a certain shape of problems, complex process problems that no longer become feasible to solve. The reason why they don't always notice this is because the simple stuff can still work quite well. But then when you get to some of the complex things, that's when things start falling apart, like the claims management, the employee onboarding, supply chain management. And in these types of circumstances, you really start looking for how can I cut across all these different systems, all these different automations and homegrown apps and everything, to drive a more complete and robust process experience for the organization. And it's no wonder why this actually does cause problems for large businesses. When you have this kind of sprawl of different technologies with different competencies and different licensing agreements, it can make it quite difficult to actually change the way the system works and improve the way the system works. And you end up having, you know, individuals in the organization having to log into many different systems, have very complicated rekeying efforts and workflows that really jams up how you actually get work done as an organization. This setup actually causes a lot of drain and a lot of pressure on both the business and IT side of the equations. You can understand in what I'm explaining why the business might find that frustrating, but IT is also the one maintaining all these different types of systems. And some of them, as they become more and more legacy, have less and less people who actually have the competency and understanding to maintain these systems. And it's a brain drain that puts a lot of operational pressure on how you actually continue to support and run this critical infrastructure within a large enterprise. And then both of these things coupled inevitably lead to competitive disadvantages, because if your competitors are able to solve for these issues, if they are able to deliver more innovative services and back office systems and have happier and better morale employees for both business and IT, they're going to be able to deliver better services and better products to the clients that they serve. And the fact of the matter is, this is not just an opinion of Appian. Market analysts are seeing some of these same trends as well, and inclination to change the status quo for some of these complex process use cases. Gartner has a quote here about 72% of enterprise application leaders being interested in consolidated platforms with orchestration, connectivity, and agentic capabilities to improve their business outcomes. And that's really from the polling of the enterprise leaders, because these leaders are realizing what I'm articulating here, that's very difficult to work across this connected landscape when you have these complex process problems. And that becomes evident when you start thinking about that in situation against functional groups in the system and apps. Now, this might feel like an old slide, right? It goes back to all of those network meshes and integration platform as a service, you name it, right? But the concept still holds true for this idea that functional groups have dependencies across all these different systems. And all these different systems are existing in large organizations today and will continue to exist for some time. And so what do you do about this challenge? How do you actually approach and accommodate this? Well, the fact of the matter is when you bring it back to the concept of AI, what you start realizing is that there's a missing of unification here, a unification of process, of experience, of data. And a lot of this will flow through that process-centric strategy that we were talking about at the front here. And that's exactly where you as a developer comes in, right? When we think about what it means to be an Appian developer, it's about not being siloed into any of these discrete automation tools or systems of records. It's this ability to kind of move past that, move beyond that, and work across systems, work across tasks, and work across departments to own the process and the way the process works end to end. And Appian as a company has invested a great amount of R&D in order to give you every tool you need to do that mission right at your fingertips, from all types of automation capabilities like AI, RPA, and API integration, to intelligence capabilities to enable the business to identify what needs to be fixed next, to a great breadth of design capabilities while you model workflow, data, and case management so that you can actually rapidly iterate and prototype over how the organization needs to run based on this virtuous feedback loop. And very few other vendors or technology practitioners are able to say this. They'll focus on one thing, like I'm good at RPA, or I'm good at data, or I'm good at business intelligence, right? But to be able to bring these all into one package allows you to be that unique individual, that process expert within your organization that can solve really hard problems and really help clients unlock things that are difficult for them to achieve any other way. So what do these actually look like as far as some of those core Bedrock elements within the platform? I think a lot of it begins within Appian's process modeling, which has been with us, really since the beginning. But we really have this category-leading process capability that is central to any application that you really develop. And it's not just about the simple processes, as we talked about earlier. It's the complex ones that have a lot of different rules and requirements for different departments. They have complex technical requirements about running parallel instances, updating other instances, being, fully cancelable, immutable by other processes. These types of things can be very hard to do with technologies not built to model processes. And if that wasn't good enough, with the introduction of automation technologies like agents, RPA, and IDP, it allows you to assemble all the different automation capabilities you need to solve complex work and solve these kind of complex automation problems that we encounter all the time in different organizations. And the other thing that I'm really excited about as we look towards the future, and some of the content we'll get into today, is with the introduction of AI agents working not only inside of Appian, but in other technologies in the portfolio, like in ServiceNow, Salesforce, and SAP. That ability to use a process-centric strategy to actually coordinate the work across that digital workforce is going to be a huge advantage and differentiator for the services and value that you provide in any project. But one critical thing to understand as a process-centric company as Appian is that the weakness can easily become data. And data is as much a critical element in pulling off anything that I just talked about when it comes to implementing these complex solutions. So Appian 10 years ago saw this coming, and we decided to make a significant research and development effort to build our data fabric capability, which is unique to our category. No one else in our landscape does data fabric in quite the same way. And the important thing about the way our data fabric was constructed, the methodology behind it, is that we knew we were dealing with a circumstance where you had data in all different types of places. We didn't want you to have to migrate or reconcile that data into Appian to recreate a new system of record versus the existing systems of record. But we also knew that we wanted it to be performant and secure, even if we didn't know ahead of time what kind of data are you actually modeling. Is it a claims use case? Is it a case management? Is it going to be know your customer? All these different types of use cases you build with Appian, you want to make sure that all of them would be well supported and effective using this capability. And the fact of the matter is that even before all of the introduction of AI agents and AI copilots, this was quite a compelling capability and advantage to Appian in doing these kind of multi-system types of automations, right? But now with the introduction of agents, they absolutely crave this kind of context and the semantic understanding, being able to connect disparate information across systems performantly and accurately and find the context they need to do their work. It's proved to be an outright differentiator to the point where a lot of technologies are looking to see how can they buttress their data strategy, how can they make a better data strategy in order to fuel that next era of AI agents. But going beyond even just the process and the data, it also gets to the intelligence of the platform. And this isn't discreetly about the artificial intelligence. We talk about AI all the time, but that true business and process intelligence to see what is working with my business, what needs to be improved, what needs to be changed so I can run more efficiently. And the value of Appian is not just having this process intelligence capability as a core component of our platform, but it's a fact of the matter that as a process intelligence company, we are also able to draw that full flywheel that you're able to see from insight all the way to implementing the change or automation you need to see to actually drive an improvement in your process. And that's really what process automation craves, right? It's not just about being able to implement the work, but it's being able to identify what needs to be improved next. And once you make that improvement, how do you validate in an undeniable way to leadership that that value was delivered? How do you measure it? How do you quantify it? Process intelligence provides the right vehicle to do exactly that. And it's not just limited to these capabilities, right? For those of you who have worked with us over the years, you know that we are consistently shipping new innovations and new capabilities each quarter, and even starting in 2026, starting to introduce each month new capabilities as platform releases for our customers and partners, right? This can be anything from last year's Doc Center unveiling that included high availability as well as high volume document processing. It can get into innovations like Smart Search to allow you to do semantic similarity search across your entire data fabric ontology. Or some of our great announcements in November are Agent Studio capability for creating complex agents to do these cognitive open-ended tasks directly in your processes, to Appian Composer that's driving that AI-augmented development to rapidly prototype and modernize applications right onto the Appian platform. All of these are just examples of that continuous innovation we apply to our platform that not only makes your Appian, your life as an Appian developer that much better and much more enjoyable and everything to deliver new shapes of capabilities and new value, but it's also preserving the relevance of your skill set, right? So that as new technologies come into the fold, we wrap it into an intuitive and well-integrated way into our process platform so that you can gainfully use it and apply it in the projects that you deliver. And so if we go back to this view, this 1990s, 2000s spaghetti diagram, right? Now we can see how Appian can incorporate into that structure in order to provide that modern foundation. Where it starts is in the agility layer, right? And basically what this is managing is what I'd like to call the nouns and verbs of the business, right? So some of the nouns could be things like claims, orders, and customers. And then the verbs would be things like claims management, order processing, customer onboarding. Fact of the matter is with procedures and processes like this, the work that you are doing is scattered across all these systems, and it also has its data scattered across these systems as well. So what the data fabric that we looked at previously allows you to do is pull all that information for these different systems locally into Appian to make a connected ontology. So instead of having to go to each system to build a full data profile on a customer or a claim, you can do that within Appian without having to migrate any data. But it's more than just an analytical capability. You can also write information to that fabric and write information back to the source systems as soon as it's updated. And then when it comes to the verbs, like the claims management and customer onboarding, that's where our category-leading process modeling, frankly, process orchestration capabilities allow you to coordinate actions and updates across all these different systems, ensuring that there's a proper abstraction when it comes to data and actions that is unified within the Appian platform. And the value of that is on top of that stable foundation, you can start layering in process intelligence. You can start layering in automation to actually improve the way work is done. And critically, now you can start delivering these adaptive experiences that actually meet the intent of these different functional groups through one unified dashboard so that they're not forced to have to rekey and log in and duplicate work across all these different systems. And as IT professionals and everything, we're able to more conveniently update and extend and transform the solution without having to rationalize or modify any of the underlying technology specific to those use cases. This provides a powerful advantage in how you can drive really stepwise level improvement in the efficiency of a business without forcing costly rip and replace or system consolidation that otherwise you might not need to do. And what this enables you to do is effectively wield those core tenets of driving this business efficiency. We've already talked quite a bit about the transformative nature of AI and how it's starting to automate some of these tasks and this complex knowledge that previously we thought impossible to do. And the dependency of AI on data and process, now through that agility layer, it has everything it needs to be effectively applied within these enterprise contexts. And the fact of the matter is that this also provides the best housing for incorporating AI agents, which is, again, AI that's able to use tools and reason and learn in order to accomplish complex work, how those embed into this process structure to start doing digital work and autonomous work that was typically bogging down experts and people to do the exact same thing. Now, to take a step back from all of that, right, what have we kind of defined? We've defined this process-centric approach to thinking about AI, the challenges organizations are facing in modernizing in order to capitalize on these new innovations in AI and process improvement, and how Appian is empowering you as the practitioner to be extraordinarily competent and capable in solving some of these complex end-to-end problems. But the thing is that there's also a lot of disruption AI is introducing in how you actually go about it. To the point where when I am meeting with some, large system integrators or clients, oftentimes they're starting to ask, well, what is the point of a low-code platform anyways? Obviously Appian provides a lot of the process automation capability and process intelligence, but when it comes to building the platform, it's using these design objects and low-code expressions. But now I can start pulling up a cursor or a Claude code, and I can start creating Java web apps and all different types of Python apps and everything very rapidly and very easily using that kind of technology. So then you start wondering about your career and you start wondering downrange, well, is this something I should be concerned about? What is the staying power of a platform style approach when it comes to these new AI-augmented innovations? So that's exactly the elephant in the room I want to address too when you're thinking about having process as a foundation for not only your modernization strategy and your process improvement strategy, but also for your career as well. First thing I want to call out when we're thinking about this is this idea of vibe coding, right? And this has been where it's the cursor or Lovable or Bolt or all these different types of technologies. It's this idea that instead of kind of getting hands-on with the code and actually building it out in a structured way that way, you're expressing more of an intent about what you want to improve, what you want to change, what you want to see happen with the application, and allowing AI to do that for you. So Andre Karpathy gets credit for kind of coining the term and everything, but this is something we've continued to see as a trend build up through 2025 and well into 2026 as well. And if you were to look to a definition from Gartner, one thing they kind of talk about in the second paragraph there is that, vibe coding allows developers to really become composers. They can even use voice recognition or a little bit of keyboarding, everything to rapidly prototype these applications. But they go on to say that it's for complex use cases, but it's also throwaway or not for production software. And so that kind of begs the question, well, what do they mean by that? What is the challenge with using these kind of more vibe-coded or AI-augmented developed projects in production settings? And one quote, Dave Marcus is a analyst who's been in the space for many years. I've really enjoyed engaging and working with him. And I saw him engage on LinkedIn on a comment thread that really stood out to me. And the real quote that I kind of want to pick out from all this is really there at the center. The tool that lets you build something that you can actually maintain wins, right? And so what that gets at is this idea that, sure, you can rapidly build something and it will even be functional and usable and look great and aesthetic. But the fact of the matter is, unless you're applying the rigor to ensure the platform it is on and the structures it is on are built to last and giving you that strong foundation for years to come, you run the risk of just increasing the volume of technical debt that you have in the organization rather than rationalizing it to begin with. And this is where Appian starts to approach this concept. Well, how can we start marrying these different ideas together, right? From going through this intent-driven development and these concepts about how you can actually drive improvement and modernization in an organization, to the design constructs and the design experience within the Appian platform. Where this really starts is some of the things we've been looking at from an AI-augmented development standpoint. If we can first begin with requirements, what is this application supposed to do? What are the goals? What are the objectives? What does it seek to accomplish? What Appian can do is use that with generative AI to translate that into some of the constructs and definitions within Appian that match to what you might end up building in order to create that solution. But the important thing that we are doing from a strategy standpoint is to not focus so much on just taking the requirements and generating out an application that way. One thing we understand has been critically difficult for these kind of accelerated deliveries or accelerated modernization initiatives is ensuring that there's alignment between what the business needs and what IT can do in order to ensure that the outcome of that endeavor meets the goals of the business and is well adopted and well accepted by the business. And so this collaborative planning phase where we lay it out on the table and let business and IT cooperate together proves to be critically important in order to drive the success of an initiative. And it also provides a really great framework for developers to do things as common as Sprint Zero and requirement solicitation in order to start their projects on the right foot. But once you have this all laid out, then Appian can step in to take that plan and translate it into a functional application, including the interfaces, rules, data, and processes you outlined in the plan in order to give you a generous head start in the build out of that application, which you can then, extend and configure and refine just like any other Appian application you would build from the ground up. And this is exactly what Appian Composer is that I'd mentioned earlier. We had this become generally available within our 25.4 release, so last November. And this is something that actually does that requirements translation to a plan, including the user stories, process, personas, rules, data model, and interfaces, all within the Appian Designer experience. And that allows you to modify and change and align the intent of the application before you go and start making it into the functional capabilities you will actually use. And it's important to realize where system integrators and partners can fit into this equation so gainfully. And we've already seen numerous success stories across different partners in driving this exact type of pattern. Right now, when Appian is starting this experience, we are working with the requirements we are given. When you talk about legacy systems and legacy application modernization, sometimes these requirements are not well documented. These systems can be 20 or 30 years old, and it may be unclear the intent or design around some of the different capabilities of it that you need to preserve or carry over in some fashion into the new system. And so working with partners to do things like code extraction and system understanding in order to get to those business requirements documents that you can put into Appian to generate that application has proved to be a really fruitful handshake that we're seeing continue to uptick in adoption to drive really large-scale modernization opportunities. And the fact of the matter is that we're not stopping at Composer from a product strategy standpoint. And this is really just a tease ahead. I hope that some of you will be able to engage with our content at Appian World. Maybe you will come to our DevCon and everything to see some of this firsthand and get heads on firsthand. But the fact of the matter is we understand that there's a life beyond Composer, right? Once you actually create the application with Composer and you generate that and you have all your user stories, you still are going to want to extend and refine and improve that application with more user stories and more requirements over time, right? But what Composer is setting up that might not be obvious to everyone is a very valuable definition within the Appian environment. It's a place that is mapping what is this application intended to do, the user stories, capabilities, etc., with what are the design objects that make it do that? What interfaces, processes, records? And so when you bring that kind of context store into the design experience, what we can start doing now is creating these developer agents, which are actually able to reference that context and then receive the intent from the developer. This is the thing I want to change. I want to add these two fields to the form. I want to add this report. And then it can use the context from Composer as well as its understanding about the design ecosystem to go ahead and help you effectuate those changes. And the beautiful thing about what we're envisioning from the strategy here is that it's not going to be relegated to a single IDE or a single environment. If I'm working on an interface, then it can go and update a rule that interface depends on. It can go and add fields to a record. It can update a process model. It's able to be very flexible, but the developer remains in the driver's seat, remains in control, looking over the actions that's doing and approving and signing off on each step along the way. So he's not losing control, but getting a much generous boost on how efficiently and effectively you can actually build the application there. And this is where we kind of get into that new paradigm and what we're expecting application design to look like with Appian. Instead of, again, just coming in with code and configurations and knob tuning and drag and drop, what you actually do is you start more often expressing intent. These are the changes I'd like to see. These are the improvements I want to make to the application. These are the adjustments or deprecations. And now you're going to allow AI-augmented development to do a lot more of the filler work and everything in order to realize those changes, in order to accomplish those outcomes. And this overall is able to differentiate, again, the efficacy and the value that Appian developers are able to provide in delivering solutions for clients, right? Now it's not so much about this contrast between what should I do with low code versus what should I do with pro code. Instead, now what we are able to do and what we're able to focus on is how can I become an expert in what the business is trying to accomplish? How can I intimate with the changes we are trying to see? And how can I demonstrate my own outsized competency in being able to rapidly change and rapidly improve the applications that you do? And this brings us a bit to a focal point here, right? So we've covered a lot of content with regards to how you are automating, how you are improving the processes, overall, how you are driving this change management and innovation. With the introduction of AI, with the introduction of AI agents, there's a lot to ask ourselves as developers, right? How do we maintain the career relevance? How do we focus on solving big and important problems? How do we continue to solve relevant problems at a speed and a scale where our services are still going to be desirable, relevant, and of interest to the organizations that we serve, both the partner organizations that include us, as well as the clients that we serve externally. And the thing that always keeps me excited about this opportunity is it's not all vision per se, right? This isn't all to say that this is something where we need to be imagining the possibility or imagining what can be done. A lot of times, these types of improvements, these types of new ways of working, we are already seeing it within customers today. We're already seeing people be able to cut patient intake time down by 98%, to audit their processes 3 times faster, or automate 95% of their orders end-to-end using these AI capabilities applied in process across numerous types of systems. So what you can feel confident about, what you're able to feel emboldened about in that way, is that you are betting on a platform and you're betting on a career that is going to continue to support and put you at the critical center of where innovation is happening, where work is happening, so you can master this next AI era using that foundation of process at your disposal in order to deliver that true differentiated advantage that other professionals simply won't be able to deliver in kind. Now, if we're going to go ahead and take a step back and look ahead at the agenda, we are really excited about some of the different content and elements that we have prepared for you in store here. We're kind of focused here on day one, right? So this is the opening. This is kind of the conversation to set the stage, but this is just the beginning. Next, what you're going to actually get into is an agentic automation session. I'm very excited about this one. We're going to have one of our solutions consultants go all through agentic AI. You might have noticed I didn't talk too much about it, just in little bits and moments throughout my presentation, but we're actually going to have a whole dedicated session, including a hands-on demonstration to show you exactly what agents are looking like in Appian, and even cover some of the latest innovations we've made into our agent product, even outside of the general availability in November and the 25.4 release. So super excited for that. I hope coming out of that, you're going to get a lot of understanding and information about some of the different use cases you can address with agents, some of those complex, cognitive automation back office applications that are relevant in financial services, manufacturing, insurance, all these different core industries. And you have a better understanding about how you can actually measure the value from your agentic implementations afterwards. From there, we're going to go to a build with AI session. So I've already teed that up a little bit, focusing on things like Composer and AI-Augmented development. So we're going to use that to actually do a revisit of our build from scratch we did last year. But now with all this AI-Augmented tooling, what does that look like today? How quickly can we do those first steps of the application? And then how can we extend from there to really fill out that first basic version of an application using Appian? And the great thing is, this is an activity that you're more than welcome to replicate and follow along in places like Appian Community Edition, because Composer is enabled there, and it's a full build from scratch type of experience that you can leverage and use any way you'd like there. And then after that, we're going to do a quick wrap up before we take it over to day 2. With day 2, we're going to have another platform technology session in the morning. This one is going to focus a bit more on document processing. So as some of you might know, we've done a lot of investment in our Doc Center capability to drive better intelligent document processing, which is such a core use case in all these process-centric workflows and process automation types of use cases. But also it goes beyond simple document processing. It also talks to how you just manage documents end-to-end in a process lifecycle. So for example, some of our innovations with our data fabric to be able to do semantic search and smart search across document data, bring that into copilots and experiences there. All that's going to cover so you can really feel a stronger mastery about how you are working across both structured data and unstructured data, all within the Appian platform. From there, we're going to go to an expert panel Q&A. We've got some Appian representatives who actually do some of our service delivery and everything that are actually going to come answer questions from you guys. And you'll get a chance to hear from Appian personnel some of our perspectives and experiences and what you might need to know and understand in order to find even more project success as you go on in your implementations using these Appian capabilities. And then from there, one of my favorite components is the attendee networking, where we're actually going to be able to drop into different topic focus groups and everything and have rich discussions about what we learned, what we think we want to apply, how you might actually go about implementing some of these things into your projects and use cases. And we'll have Appian representatives working around, floating around to help facilitate and engage the discussions and share some of our inputs and ideas. And I think it's overall going to be just another great and very relevant type of session and everything for you guys there as well. And then we'll do a final day 2 wrap up and everything, cover everything that we've covered there. And hopefully you guys will be leaving again with a much broader appreciation about how Appian is innovating, how Appian is equipping you for success in these process capabilities going on for the long haul there. And then last, but certainly not least, I know that a lot of folks, what they are here for as well, is looking to get the certification voucher, right? This is something that for people attending the sessions and everything, you're entitled to a certification voucher so that you can take your Appian certification exam in order to get the associate, or even if you're going to the senior or lead type of certification. That is something that is included for the attendees, but it's very important to understand you must attend a majority of 4 sessions in order to be eligible for the certification vouchers. So we don't want to see you just logging in and logging out. We don't want to see you skipping, half the sessions or anything. Make sure you're engaged, make sure you're attending. We want this to be a really helpful and informative session for you and everything so that you can leave away feeling empowered and understanding of what you can do with Appian to really charge into this next era of innovation. And with that, that's largely the content I had prepared for you today. But overall, just to recap, be excited about the future, right? AI can bring a lot of uncertainty. It can bring a lot of, unfamiliarity about how is this impacting my role? How is this impacting my career? How is this impacting the technology patterns we end up using? What you can know from Appian is that we are a trusted partner in the innovation of this space and in your success as Appian practitioners. So as we continue to work and refine and improve the way our product drives process automation and drives process improvement, we're going to make sure that those benefits become a part of you, a part of the work you do, a part of the value you deliver, so that you can continue to do all the exciting elements of bringing value to organizations, solving problems they thought they could not solve, and really delivering that value and innovation consistently time over time. So again, thank you for your time. It has been really great engaging with you. I will see you guys in the chat spaces and everything, continuing to communicate, answer questions, fill in insights and stuff. But I hope you find this program to be quite exciting, and we're really excited to bring it to you. Thank you so much.